Facing stigma, some Nigerian families are demanding justice in child sex abuse cases. U.S. lawmakers are facing a rising tide of pressure to stem school gun violence. And the New York Spy Museum gives the public an opportunity to act like James Bond. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. The Nigerian government officials have finally broken their silence and confirmed on Sunday that 110 girls are missing after last week's Boko Haram attack in a northeastern town. The Information Ministry says the girls from the Government Science and Technology College in Dapchi, Yobe State, are unaccounted for after suspected Boko Haram terrorists invaded their school exactly 1 week ago.
Henceforth, the police and the Civil Defense Corps will ensure that their presence are strong in every school so that they will serve as deterrents to insurgents. Secondly, the security agencies, the outfits, are working together and they are synergizing to ensure that these girls are recovered as fast as possible. They're already working on several very important leads, which would be, I think it will be very, it would be very imprudent to talk about. But we want to assure Nigerians that no stone will be left unturned in our determination to rescue these girls.
Well, authorities initially denied any girls had been kidnapped, suggesting instead they were hiding in the bush after the attack. President Muhammadu Buhari says additional aircraft are being deployed along with troops previously dispatched to search for the missing girls. Activists in northern Nigeria are campaigning for tougher laws to punish those convicted of child sex abuse as more families of young victims step forward to break the culture of silence surrounding the issue and demand justice. Chika Oduor reports from Kaduna.
The accused has a case to answer.
Mercy Philip is doing what many don't dare in northern Nigeria. She is working through the court system to jail the neighbor she says raped her 8-year-old daughter. She and her lawyer prepare for court.
Anytime that I remember what happened, I used to cry, and mostly at night I do cry.
Barrister Bukola Ajao is among the activists lobbying Kaduna State to approve the Federal Child Rights Act of 2003. Of Nigeria's 36 states, just 11, all in the country's north, have not ratified it. Instead, those states use Sharia courts and a colonial-era penal code to prosecute child sex abuse.
But the present child's right law, which we're trying to push in Kaduna, gives 14 years without fine. So when the punishment is stringent and it goes like that, then you have people being deterred.
Seeking justice can come at a price. Some in the community the Phillips lived in ridiculed the family, forcing them to move. Their daughter says her classmates would throw stones at her and laugh. Child sex abuse carries a stigma, and Barrister Ajao says most families succumb to societal pressures and end up settling for cash payments. The most recent available nationwide statistics are from a 2014 UNICEF-supported study. It revealed that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 10 boys in Nigeria experience sexual violence before the age of 18. Borao Diku Teaching Hospital in Kaduna is authorized to submit medical reports in cases of suspected child sex abuse.
Nearly on a daily basis, there will be one form of abuse or the other. And that is quite alarming in view of the fact that quite a negligible fraction actually get reported to the hospital. And if that can happen on a daily basis, you can imagine what will be going on out in the society.
This orphanage has become a safe place for abused children. A young mother named Ladi is here. She has allowed VOA to show her face. She says she can't go to court, as it was her father who raped her young daughter.
My daughter was covered in blood. I picked her up and just stood there. She was someone I had always respected, so I didn't say anything to him. I picked her up and went to town with her in the morning.
One 7-year-old boy says he was walking to school when a fruit seller lured him into the back of his shop. The abuse went on until the boy complained to his uncle about pains in his body.
I wrote the police statement myself. A lot of my friends first suggested we all go and beat him up, but I didn't because of what could follow. Other people were telling me just to leave the matter because the man is too old, but what he did was serious. The judgment passed was not enough, but still I thank God there was some sort of judgment.
When asked if he is teased at school, the boy begins to cry. The fruit seller was found guilty of sodomy with a minor and is currently serving a 3-year jail sentence. Chika Odua for VOA News, Kaduna, Nigeria.
In East Africa, Somalia's Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khairi has ordered police and intelligence agents to immediately intensify security 100% in the capital of Mogadishu. This follows attacks by Al-Shabaab, which killed nearly 40 people on Friday. Friday's attacks were the first by Al-Shabaab in the capital since October, when a truck bomb killed more than 500 and an attack on a hotel 2 weeks later claimed the lives of at least another 30 people. Now, last year, the government formed the Mogadishu Security and Stabilization Forces, who are instructed to raid homes suspected of being hiding places for militants and to erect checkpoints without warning. But the effort had several setbacks, including the deadly truck bombing and the firing of 2 security chiefs in the aftermath of the bombing. There were also incidents where security forces working with the stabilization force clashed after mistaking each other for Al-Shabaab. Officials say Somalian troops and African Union forces will have to improve security in Mogadishu if they are to earn the support of the public, who doubt the two groups can stop the Al-Shabaab attacks. As Europe seeks to stop migrants and militants reaching its shores, EU's foreign policy chief Federica Mogherini says that international donors have raised more than $500 million for a multinational military force in West Africa's Sahel region. VOA's Maria Diallo has more.
The European Union's top diplomat says the $510 million amount pledged at the international conference has exceeded their expectations.
It goes beyond initial expectations, thanks to an enormous mobilization, not only of the European Union and its member states, but also of other international partners.
Evoking the desperation young people feel in the impoverished Sahel, Niger's president said many of the youth had just 2 options in life.
One is to die at sea rather than dying in front of their mother, like what was said by a young migrant. Or the other choice, to respond to the malicious and manipulative call of terrorist groups in direct connection with criminal activities, weapons trafficking, and drugs.
To give hope to the next generation, Luxembourg's prime minister insists on the need to help the Sahel countries.
I think we should never forget that Sahel is not that far away. And it's in our interest also that we avoid conflict situation. I was a few weeks ago with my Belgian colleague also and Dutch colleague in Mali. And we should see that the situation is, for the moment, a very difficult situation.
For the African Union Commission president, it's crucial to remember that no international action, no matter how strong it is, can substitute the efforts of the countries of the region.
By organizing via the G5 a global vision to respond to the multidimensional challenges that this group's countries are faced with, we will have accomplished a useful work in the fight against terrorism. The political will and firm commitment of this region constitutes the walls of this fight.
And while the summit was a real success, it's important to plan ahead, said Niger's president.
Unfortunately, the resources announced cover costs only for the first year of operations of the G5 Sahel Joint Forces. It's not certain that confrontations between us and the terrorists end in a year.
The G5 Sahel group was set up by Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, and Niger, and plans to coordinate with the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali and France's anti-insurgent Operation Barkhane, whose troops were deployed in the region since intervening in 2013 to beat back an insurgency in northern Mali. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
Aid officials say South Sudan is close to another famine after more than 4 years of civil war and failed ceasefires. Aid groups say they are preparing for the toughest year on record. Almost 2/3 of the population would need food aid this year to stave off starvation and malnutrition. That's according to members of a working group, including South Sudanese and UN officials. In a published survey, the group revealed that a total of 5.3 million people, 48% of the population, are already in crisis or emergency stages 3 and 4 on a 5-point scale. Now, the oil-rich East African nation has been torn apart by ethnically charged civil war since late 2013, when troops loyal to President Salva Kiir started fighting forces loyal to then Vice President Riek Machar. A Tanzanian court has sentenced two opposition leaders to 5 months in prison on Monday for insulting President John Magufuli. The decision is expected to fuel criticism that authorities are undermining democracy and stifling free speech. Now, the Southern Highlands Court convicted Joseph Mbilinyi, a lawmaker from the main opposition Chadema party and local leader for the party, Emmanuel Masonga, for using abusive language against the president at a public rally in December. Now, according to court documents, Mbilinyi was accused of associating Magufuli with an alleged assassination attempt on vocal opposition MP Tundu Lissu last year. Now, more than 10 people, including university students and a lecturer, have been charged in court for the past 2 years with insulting the president via social media. Insulting the president on social media was made a criminal offense in 2015. Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now, coming up, U.S. lawmakers face pressure to stem gun violence. Stay with us.
This is a country that I chose to become a citizen. I didn't have to become a citizen. I chose to become a citizen.
I feel like America gave me an opportunity to pursue my passion as an artist.
I really believe that clean eating is a way to a more successful life or a happier life, if you want to put it that way.
One of the things that helps me wake up every morning is doing better, being better.
We grew up poor, and so I'm always focused on helping the working class be able to have a more comfortable lifestyle.
I'm passionate about doing justice every day. I oftentimes say that justice is a verb, not a noun. You know, I believe in action and moving the ball forward.
U.S. lawmakers are facing heightened pressure to address gun violence in America after yet another mass shooting that claimed 17 lives at a Florida high school. VOA's Michael Bowman has our report.
politician who is taking donations from the NRA, shame on you.
Recent days have seen American students mobilize politically to a degree not seen since the Vietnam War, demanding action from Washington.
The NRA bankrolling us has turned our country into a war zone.
We're going to do something about it. We're going to make changes.
President Trump is urging Congress to strengthen background checks on gun purchasers, raise the minimum buying age for semi-automatic weapons, and ban devices that make rifles fire more rapidly. He is also urging schools to allow armed teachers who could battle a gunman.
Why do we protect our airports and our banks, our government buildings, but not our schools? It's time to make our schools a much harder target for attackers. We don't want them in our schools.
Arming teachers has the strong backing of gun rights advocates, but new laws restricting gun ownership do not. The National Rifle Association says the Florida tragedy could have been prevented if federal and local authorities had heeded multiple warnings about the accused shooter.
This madman should have never been able to purchase this firearm, ever. Parents make up the NRA membership. We see our kids and everybody. We don't ever want to see anything like this again.
Arming teachers has been rejected by state governors of both political parties and by some teachers themselves.
In the classroom, I don't know. I mean, I have a 7-year-old, and I would not feel comfortable with him going into a classroom knowing that there could be a potential weapon in there, whether it's loaded or not.
It's been more than 2 decades since Congress passed significant firearms legislation. The 1994 assault weapons ban expired in 2004, and the years since have seen 7 of the 10 deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. Many Democrats want to renew the ban on semi-automatic weapons.
We continue to suffer a mass gun violence problem that is uniquely American. Only in America is our inaction marked by the next mass slaughter of children in our schools. Only in America have we chosen to protect the profits of gun corporations over the lives of our students.
Outlawing an entire classification of firearms is believed to have almost zero chance of passing a Republican-led Congress. But political momentum is building for action on other, less polarizing proposals. Congress failed to deliver any changes to gun laws after mass shootings at Virginia Tech, Newtown, Connecticut, and Las Vegas, Nevada.
And they lie through their teeth.
Students in Florida and elsewhere are vowing that this time will be different. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Well, President Trump is repeating his call to arm some teachers in the wake of the recent high school shooting in Florida. Trump spoke before a conservative group near Washington on Friday. He's the latest in a series of U.S. presidents forced to deal with the impact of a mass school shooting. VOA's Jim Malone reports that presidents have often been frustrated trying to bridge the great divide over guns in America.
President Trump got a warm reception from conservatives meeting near Washington Friday and sought to build support for a controversial idea to arm some teachers to prevent future school shootings.
I want to stop it. And I know it's a little controversial to say, but I have to say, since I started this 2 days ago, a lot of people that were totally opposed to it are now agreeing. They love their students. They don't want their students to be killed and to be hurt.
In the aftermath of the Florida high school shooting, Trump faces pressure to act, much as his predecessors did in the wake of similar national tragedies.
I can only say tonight that the prayers of the American people are with you.
President Bill Clinton spoke to the nation in the wake of the 1999 mass shooting at Columbine High School in Colorado. President George W. Bush offered comfort and prayers following the Virginia Tech massacre in 2007. And an emotional President Barack Obama spoke to the nation after the mass shooting of elementary school students in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012.
We've endured too many of these tragedies in the past few years. The majority of those who died today were children. beautiful little kids between the ages of 5 and 10 years old.
This week, President Trump heard from students and parents in the wake of the Valentine's Day school shooting in Parkland, Florida, including surviving student Samuel Zeif.
I lost a best friend who's practically a brother. And I'm here to use my voice because I know he can't.
Recent polls show a jump in support for additional gun restrictions, says Quinnipiac pollster Tim Malone.
If you think Americans are not paying attention or moved by these shootings, you're wrong. In the last 2 years, we've seen a 20% jump in calls for stricter gun control.
But support in the polls does not always translate into votes come election time, says analyst Capri Cafaro.
NRA members are very reliable voters. So just because public opinion polls say people want background checks, that doesn't necessarily translate to people showing up at the polls.
Students have taken to the streets demanding action in the wake of the Florida tragedy, and that could have a lasting political impact, says Malone.
These young voices have jumped out in the last 4 or 5 days and appear to be at the tip of the spear of a movement. So the sense is a movement that had started has now gained momentum and accelerating, and we may see some change out of this.
The first opportunity to demonstrate change will come in this November's midterm congressional elections. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. In New York Museum, let's visit a spy on the spies. We'll be right back.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, violent clashes between police and protesters killed one person in a church-led march against the president, Joseph Kabila, in Kinshasa. In Nigeria, authorities say 110 girls are still unaccounted for after the Boko Haram attack. In Somalia, the Prime Minister orders police and intelligence agents to intensify security 100% in Mogadishu after attack by Al-Shabaab killed nearly 40 people on Friday. In Cameroon, young engineers are flying high thanks to greater investment in the use of drones. Finally, in Egypt, 8 tombs dating back to the Pharaonic Late Period and Ptolemaic dynasty are unearthed in the south of Cairo.
Back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Now, it's not often that a state visit ignites a firestorm. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's fashion choices during his recent trip to India have been roundly and sometimes savagely mocked in the press and on social media. The Trudeau family's own traditional Indian attire raised eyebrows during their trip to the country, with the Prime Minister at one point donning formal wear, typically worn by bridegrooms. A fresh controversy erupted after it was revealed a Sikh extremist convicted of attempting to murder an Indian politician had been invited to dine with Trudeau at the Canadian High Commissioner's residence in New Delhi. The official invitation was later withdrawn. And in other questionable fashion news, mullet enthusiasts from across Australia assembled in a small country town to celebrate the mullet lifestyle and crown a greatest mullet of all. Over 150 contestants. Mullets were categorized into 5 groups: everyday, grubby, red hair, women's, and juniors. Shenshag Hangran, who began growing his mullet, Kurt, in 1986, won the highly coveted award for the greatest mullet of all. The short on the top, and sides, long at the back mullet hairstyles was glamorized in the 1970s and the 80s. And finally, Chinese electronics company Lenovo has revealed released a child-friendly range of laptops that are spill-proof, shock-proof, and scratch-proof. The Lenovo 300E and the more premium 500E both have touch displays, but the screen has been coated with a conductive material that allows the use of a standard graphite pencil as a stylus. The laptop also come with the learning apps for children. Lenovo will market the device for families, but also for schools and institutions that educate children, and that's what is trending today. Now, it's not easy to be a spy. The job requires a unique set of skills, including mastery of a wide range of gadgets and devices. Visitors to the newly opened Spyscape Museum in New York have an opportunity to explore secret missions and see for themselves if they have what it takes to be a secret agent. Faiza Al-Masri has the story.
The Spyscape Museum explores all aspects of spycraft in its 7 galleries, and the exhibits include hands-on experiences where visitors can try interactive spy challenges.
Those spy challenges include things like lie detection and interrogation booths, to agility and special ops laser tunnels. And then most importantly, it's also a personal journey. So when you go through the space, we give you an identity band. And as you go through, you play both the interactive spy challenges as well as go to question stations where we test your risk tolerance, your IQ, and your personality. Then in your debrief, we tell you what kind of a spy you'd be.
Each gallery displays artifacts related to that area, like an actual Enigma machine used by the Germans to encrypt their messages during World War II, or masks worn by members of the global hacking group Anonymous, with some signed with the code name of the person who wore it. An exhibit in the surveillance section showcases Seafood from Slaves, a series of Pulitzer Prize-winning stories by the Associated Press that traced how fish caught by slave labor in Southeast Asia ended up on American plates. Reporting it involved using satellite technology to track a cargo ship that was moving the seafood caught by the enslaved men, as well as surveillance of the fish as they were offloaded and moved to other facilities.
Every gallery at Spyscape connects its subject matter to the present day. So, for example, in our encryption gallery, we're telling a story about code breaking in World War II. But then we bring it to the current day and tell you why that matters to you in your daily life. So we talk about encrypted messaging services like WhatsApp, and the idea that we already know that no code is unbreakable, so it's only a matter of time before something like WhatsApp is going to be cracked as well.
Former spies, hackers, and members of intelligence agencies help put spies.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Today's episode won't cost you anything.
Freebie.
Let's see what this one is about.
Anna, I love my job.
Oh yeah? Why is that?
I get so many freebies from the bands I write about. CDs, t-shirts, water bottles, even tickets to see them perform.
Wow. The only freebie I ever got from my